Here we go again. I'm back with another Tekken video. I know I haven't made one in 2 weeks. You guys thought I was never gonna come back, but here I am. To grant upon thee that sweet, sweet Tekken goodness. And of course, there is no other reason than I absolutely want to. It has nothing to do at all with me putting my blood, sweat, and tears into a Thanos video that nobody wanted to watch. Nope, that's just coincidence. That. Come on, guys. It's a good video. I spent a lot of time on it. But I'm always one to live in the present. And presently, we're gonna talk about my most controversial Tekken opinions, of which I have many. Like all my videos, I don't write a script, I just talk in front of a camera. So if I miss some of my controversial opinions, that is most likely what will happen. So let's get this rad shit started. Number 1. Jin and Kazuya shouldn't lose the Devil Gene. I've been pretty open and clear about my desire for the Mishima plotline to end, or at the very least evolve into something else. I mean, there's just so many ways you can have Mishima characters constantly trying to kill each other and make that story engaging. So while I do think they should evolve that part of the story, I don't think they should get rid of the Devil Gene plotline. This entire series from the very beginning has been about Mishimas trying to kill each other and the Devil Gene. You get rid of the Mishima conflict and the Devil Gene, what the fuck is this game series even about? You're kind of left with nothing. And despite the fact that I don't think they've been using the Devil Gene to its fullest potential, it is a cool concept for a power, and I think they could use it pretty well. I just think they need to introduce other things that make it not so goddamn overpowered and explain the lore of it a little bit better. But to get rid of it entirely, I think is a really bad idea. Because honestly, story-wise, the thing that makes Tekken unique is the fact that it follows mostly villainous characters, as well as this whole Devil Gene plotline. And now that the story's about Jin and he's a completely 100% good guy, Devil Gene's kind of the only thing we got left to make it unique. Take that away and it's just a bunch of guys fighting each other. I mean, damn, the entire story revolves around this thing. What is the fucking story if you remove it? I don't know. They're basically starting from scratch. I say keep it in because it's cool, but lessen its importance and power level within the series. Just kind of let it blend in with a bunch of other cool shit that you want to add in. Number 2, Hwoarang is a bad rival. Alright, some people might agree with me in the last one. I don't think anyone's going to agree with me on this one. I like Hwoarang's general vibe and personality, but as far as a character, he fucking sucks. He has literally no reason to exist beyond fighting Jin. Think in your mind of all the greatest rivals that's ever been made, right? Are these characters' sole purpose for living just fighting their rival? Let me stop you real quick. The answer is fucking no. And if you're thinking Vegeta, no, it's not. His sole reason for living used to be about getting strong, and then it became about his family. His whole arc is about how that's not really important anymore, and that he was wrong for living his entire life based on just wanting to fight Kakarot. That's his whole fucking arc. Hwoarang doesn't have anything that's his. Generally, what you do to make a rival relationship really compelling is to have both parties competing for the same thing. Rivals like Deku and Bakugo, or Luffy and Blackbeard. Characters who are fighting each other struggling to acquire the same thing. But in Tekken, the thing that Jin wants is to kill the Mishimas, something that Hwoarang doesn't give a shit about. Hwoarang only really wants to fight Jin, and Jin doesn't really care to fight him back. They tap in a little bit in Tekken 8 that Jin does actually want to fight Hwoarang and enjoys doing it, but that's more like friends sparring. It's not like a true to form rival relationship. Another thing you can do is build up Hwoarang as being a foil for Jin. Essentially have them have one very major difference in opinion or philosophy on something, which sets Hwoarang up to challenge Jin in his beliefs and ideology. This will make it so that the fights they have aren't just the fights of who can punch better, but would actually challenge Jin's character on a much deeper level. They don't do this either. So Hwoarang doesn't do either of the two things that are required to be a good rival. I think this will always hold Hwoarang's story back. As a rival, he needs to have some reason for fighting Jin other than just he wants to. They have to have a conflict of some kind. It just makes the rivalry really boring, and since Hwoarang only exists to be a rival and he has no character of his own outside of that and really no desires or goal, that kind of makes him a little boring. Like I said, I like his general vibe and personality, but there isn't really much going on here. Number 3, redeeming Kazuya is a bad idea. I do not get why people think that this is good. Kazuya is far past the point of redemption, and I'm not saying that he's done things so evil that he can't be redeemed. I'm saying that as far as his character going, him being a shitty person is really the only thing they've written. There's nothing else here. He's never once in the history of the entire series been shown having any good qualities whatsoever. And don't say that he cares about Jun, he cares about Jinpachi, and he loved his mother. Loving people does not make you a good person. Literal fucking monsters can love people and care about people personally and still be fucking monsters. In my Kazuya character analysis video, a lot of people commented saying I was wrong for calling him pure evil because he's shown to care about people close to him. And sure, he does, not anytime recently, but he has in the past. That doesn't make him good. Love is not inherently a good trait. You can love well and you can love destructively. And let's not forget that Kazuya has no problems with murdering the people that he loves if it means it will acquire him more power, like he does in his Tekken 5 ending. Hold up, I'm getting off topic. This is not about me trying to convince you that Kazuya is a bad guy. Alright, back on point. If you redeem Kazuya, what are you left with in this series as far as villains go? I'll wait. I lied, I'm not gonna wait. You're not fucking left with anybody. The villains in this series outside of Heihachi and Kazuya are fucking trash. While I don't really like Kazuya as a villain in 8, he has been interesting in the past and he could still be interesting. As far as the villains that we've had, he's the most interesting one. By far. He's also the one with the most potential. And the one that we as audiences have been with the longest. Again, I'm not saying that he has to be the main villain of the entire series, but if you're not going to kill him, you're going to keep him around, keep him evil. Have him serve different roles in the story than just the villain, sure, but still have him be a villain. I am not in any way interested in a story about Jin and Kazuya fighting some one-shot new villain in Tekken 9. Because as number 4 is about to tell you, the one-shot villains fucking suck. Every single one of them. I know that people are really big fans of characters like Ogre and Jinpachi, but these characters are terrible. They really are. Ogre, I think, is really hard for you to defend. He just randomly attacks people searching for power. He doesn't even speak a language that anyone can understand. He's not a character. He's just a force of nature that people have to fight against. Not a good villain. Jinpachi could have been a good villain. He had the potential to be a good villain, but he was very misused. If you would have had Jinpachi be some character that came back from the grave as like some kind of vengeful spirit to go after Heihachi after he was locked under Manharu and forced to starve to death, that could have been interesting. We could have seen a lot of character dynamics there. That's not what happened. Instead, he gets fucking mind controlled by Inferno and then just randomly starts spouting shit about destroying the world and never even meets Heihachi in the game. Jin ends up being the final fight for him. He's never even fucking met Jin before. Why am I supposed to care about these two fighting? Heihachi would have been the best opponent for him, and Kazuya would have been the second best opponent for him. Either of those would have been good final fights to end that whole character arc and that storyline. But instead, you had a fucking stranger in Jin fight him, and Jinpachi doesn't really do anything that makes him a good character. And I don't think I even have to defend my position on Azazel. Azazel sucks. He's a giant monster who wants to destroy the world, basically the same as Ogre. Interchangeable, except he's more powerful. Think back in your mind to all the past Tekken stories. The best ones are always the ones where characters actually interact with one another. Jin and Heihachi in Tekken 3. All 3 of the Mishimas in Tekken 4. And now Tekken 8 with Jin and Kazuya. One-shot villains in this series suck. Stop focusing so much time on them. Let the legacy characters shine some more and use them as villains. You got so many fucking villainous characters that are already in this series that you're underusing. Dragunov and Brian to be 2 big examples. Number 5. King shouldn't be more involved with the main story. Okay, so I actually really love King, and I might even do a character analysis on King at some point, and I actually hold his personal story as one of the best in Tekken. Yeah, but you guys didn't even know that. Having said that, his story has nothing to fucking do with anything going on with the Mishimas, and never has. Forcing him, who's got a pretty decent story already, into the main story doesn't really work, because there's just no connection between the two. You're more likely to just make his personal story worse. Having him be something like a cameo like he was in Tekken 8, I think is a far better use of him in the main story than actually having him be a bigger part of it. But I've seen a lot of people in my comment section who love King so much and really want him to be a bigger part of the main story. I think that's a bad idea. Now, what I do think they should do is make the character stories better, because man, do I hate the fucking character stories. Have every character story actually be meaningful and push individual characters forward. I don't want to play another title where the only movement that happens in Dragunov's story is he fucking makes a model tank. That's stupid. Give him a real story and further it in some way, please. Same thing with King. Same thing with all these characters that don't actually have anything to do in the main story. Because while I do think the side characters need to have more influence in the main story, I don't think all of them would really work as more than cameos. So expand upon their stories outside of the main stories. That's my point. Number 6. Kazuya is still the protagonist of Tekken 1 through 7. Now, there's a lot of people who came at me when Tekken 8 came out and gave me a bunch of shit saying, see, we told you so. Jin's the main character of 8. Clearly, he's the main character of the whole series. And these people clearly did not watch my video. In the video, Kazuya is the protagonist of Tekken. I straight up said that Jin will probably be the protagonist of Tekken 8. That's what I said. I also said that by doing that does not change who the protagonist of 1 through 7 is. I was aware when I made that video that Jin was likely going to be the protagonist of Tekken 8 and all future games moving forward. Harada already stated that shit before I made the video. My video was specifically about 1 through 7 and I still stand by that statement. I'm not going to give full arguments as to why because I already made 2 videos about it. Go watch them if you care to know. Now this is the part where we get into the really controversial opinions. You ready? I'm not. Tekken 6 was a natural progression of Jin's character. Nobody agrees with this. Not a single person in the entire fandom of Tekken that I've ever spoken to agrees with me on this. But yes, Jin turning evil in 6 was a natural progression of his character since his introduction into 3. I don't think that was done well. I think his character was written very poorly. I think the story was done very poorly. It is a badly written story to a game. However, it is the natural progression that he was going down. I've had this debate with people on the channel as well as in real life. Jin was kind of a fucking psychopath. Just because he's a nice guy, he's polite, and he's trying to do things for the greater good, that's fine, that's all good. That's always been the case ever since Tekken 3. I get that. But there is not a single story other than Tekken 8 revolving around Jin that doesn't have him psychotically going towards to murder someone for his own desires. Every single one. Tekken 3 is a story of revenge. Tekken 4, his literal second appearance, has him go on a suicide mission to murder a father he's never met before. That's what the story's about. It's not until the end of it that his mother's influence convinces him not to do that. His entire storyline from the beginning of 4 onward is to wipe out an entire bloodline of people, whether they are good or evil. He murders Jinpachi despite the fact that Jinpachi is a good man. He doesn't know anything about Jinpachi. He knows that he's possessed by this demon, but at no point is Jin ever shown to show any sadness about the fact that he's murdering an innocent man. A normal, non-psychotic heroic character would have tried to save Jinpachi's soul from the demon that was possessing him. Jin does not even bring up that option. Oh, he's a member of the Mishima Blood, got a demon in him? Let's kill that bitch. That's Jin's entire character in a nutshell. He's a very vengeful person. And when he gets power over an entire army that can bring death upon the entire world, that's what he does with it. Because that's what he's been shown to do. I don't know why people are surprised that this happened. He's always been shown that he wants to wipe out the Mishima bloodline regardless of who's in his way, regardless of who he has to kill in order to do it. Tekken 6 was just him taking that character trait and expanding it across the world because now he has the power to do that. The only way you can really argue against this is to say that Jin is not a character who is driven by murder. But that would be a lie. He very clearly is. All the time, constantly, in every game. And he's only really backed away from doing that twice. Once in Tekken 4 and the entire plotline of Tekken 8. Number 8. Heihachi's character wasn't retconned in Tekken 7. This is the biggest one because everyone and their mother thinks that this motherfucker was entirely ruined by Tekken 7, that Tekken 7 had the worst story imaginable. There's no coming back from it. It ruined Heihachi's character. And while I agree with some of these, like I don't think Tekken 7's story was good, and I think it was written very poorly, like I think with most of Tekken's stories, I do not believe that either Heihachi's character was retconned, nor do I believe his character was ruined. And that's mainly because they don't undo anything that he's done in the past. All the way back in Tekken 1, it says that he drops him off the cliff because he wants to see how strong he is. Then once he sees how strong he is, he decides to train him and start grooming him to take over the Mishima Zaibatsu, but he treats him like shit that entire time. Doing things like adopting Li Chaolan and beating the shit out of him and just generally being a really shitty dad. They don't undo any of this. He does drop him off a cliff to see how strong he is. He does still treat him like shit. He does still adopt Li Chaolan to make Kazuya jealous and to make him feel bad. He does all of this stuff. The only thing that Tekken 7 did was add more context. I've kind of gone over this a little bit in past videos, so I'm not going to go too much over it now. But basically, there's nothing you can say about Heihachi's character that he did in the past that was undone by Tekken 7. It was just expanded upon and given a second reason. That's not a retcon. Pretty much everything that's revealed in Tekken 7 about Heihachi, like Kazumi, the Devil Gene line, Heihachi and Kazuya's conflict over the years, is all kept the exact same with this new added context put on top. Tekken 7 did a lot of things wrong that I don't like, but it did not ruin Heihachi's character. In fact, it actually made him quite a bit deeper. This is an example of a good idea that was executed very poorly, much like Jin turned into a villain in Tekken 6. And when you look at the entire story of Tekken from 1 all the way to 8, that's essentially what the whole story is. It's a lot of really cool story ideas that are executed very, very poorly. If you watch a lore video on YouTube or sit down and read an entire wiki page of the story of Tekken 1 through 7, that shit sounds fucking cool. That's a story that you want to watch unfold in front of you. And then when you watch it, you might be a little disappointed because it wasn't told in the best way. But that doesn't mean that the idea was bad. That's the reason why I'm going to keep making Tekken videos and keep talking about Tekken's story, because it's a story that's created by a guy who doesn't know or really care about story all that much, who kind of accidentally fumbles into making pretty cool stories because he just throws shit at the wall to see what sticks. But he's slowly over time getting better and better at making those stories. So I feel like getting into Tekken storylines kind of feels like watching an underdog overcome some great challenge. You want to see them make a story that just blows your fucking mind, because clearly they have the ideas to do so. They just need to implement them properly. My issues with Tekken 8 is that they told the story in a much better way than they ever have before, but all the crazy, wacky, awesome ideas that they've always had in the past are kind of gone from the game, and it just sort of feels very by the numbers, and Tekken never really felt by the numbers before. So I'm kind of hoping that Tekken 8 was like a good test run for how to properly write a story, and then in Tekken 9 they can fucking just go back to throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, but with this new skill of being able to properly format a story in a way that's not fucking retarded. Anyway, that's my list. That's everything I could think of. So that's gonna be all from me. If you enjoyed the video, please do me a favor. Like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that shit. But always remember, y'all be safe out there, you hear?